Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel if you've been here before. Please subscribe if you haven't yet already. There's a red button beneath me somewhere, and if you click on that you will be subscribed to my channel. There's also a little bell just next to that, and if you click on that you will get an alert every time I upload new content, which is awesome. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. That makes me super happy. Today's video is the fourth in a series where I am doing autumnal makeup while talking about Stranger Things Season 2, and today's video is episode 4, Will the Wise. I'm using the Viseart Golden Hour palette, which is just beautiful. So if you would like to see how I got this look and talk a little bit about Stranger Things Season 2, episode 4, Will the Wise, please keep watching. All right, so we pick up where we left off at the end of the last episode. And Joyce has made a mad dash to school, and the AV club is empty, and she is finally then outside, and she runs into the kids, and it is again Mike who said that he found him like this, and he's just in this kind of catatonic state, kind of there but not there, conscious but not quite. I'm gonna go in with Honorée all over my lids. So she's yelling at him and shaking him, and we see him in the upside down version of the football field, and just this struggle that he is in with these, again, almost from Lost, like smoke monster tendrils going up his nose. And finally, in the upside down, the monstrel releases its tendrils, and Will is released. And then his eyes open and he's back there, but really intense. And then we're at the buyer's house. Gonna go in with a fluffy blending brush with Montaigne, and he tells her he doesn't remember anything. She asks kind of what was happening, and it's hard to know. I think he's being honest. I think this is kind of like a slow takeover. I don't think he's lying to her. I think he probably does feel like he's going crazy, and that there are now things, and what he says is that I can feel it everywhere. I can still feel it. And she shows Will the shape that she sketched out on the TV screen when she was watching the video from Halloween. And she asks him what it is, and he says that he doesn't know, but yeah, he just feels it everywhere. And she says that she's going to fight for him, that she's going to keep him safe. And it seems like she's going to do everything possible to keep him safe. And I'm going to go in with a smaller blending brush and Louvre. It's red. Very curious about this. Very autumnal. Then 11. Oh my gosh. She gets back to, it's a beautiful scene, beautiful shot when she gets back to the cabin and Hopper is smoking and you can see the cabin behind him. It didn't remind me of, because obviously his character is not anything like Lars Thorwald from Rear Window, the Hitchcock movie. But what reminded me of it, one of my favorite scenes, if you haven't seen Rear Window, you should see it, but one of my favorite scenes from that movie is when the Jimmy Stewart character is looking across the courtyard at his neighbor, Lars Thorwald, and all that you see is a dark room with a cigarette, the embers, the orange embers of a cigarette kind of lighting as he's inhaling. So it reminded me of that only in that sense, because it's one of my favorite scenes in film. And he is grounding her, and he says that friends don't lie, because she totally left, and she promised the whole like 3 rules thing. She says that she went to school. I'm gonna go in with Rivoli over my whole lid with this kind of large flat brush. He asks her what happened and where she went, and she said that she went to school, that she saw Mike, but that Mike didn't see her, that no one saw her. And then Hopper tells her that that woman and daughter that she ran across called the cops, and that these are the things that they need to be careful about. And she yells at him and says, "You lie," and he says, "I don't lie. I protect and I feed and I teach." Man, tough to be the parent of an adolescent. Really tough to be the parent of an adolescent with supernatural powers. Grounds her for a week, no TV, no egos, and then it grows to 2 weeks and then to a month. And giving her the punishment of not watching television is not really watching television. It's the power to see Mike, and that sends her over the edge. And she does another kind of Carrie sending like the dictionary, I think it is, across the room at him. I'm gonna go in with Palais, a smaller Morphe M124 around the outside of my lid. And yeah, then she's kind of slamming everything, like throwing a full carry and throwing everything and slamming everything, and it is just terrible. And then we're back again at the buyer's house, and Joyce is calling Hopper again and again and again and again. And I'm gonna go in with a much smaller brush, and I'm gonna go in with Sen just on my inner corner. And so we're back there, and Will is not feeling good, and she is trying to call Hopper to no avail. I'm gonna go back in one more time because I do want to warm this up a little bit more. I'm gonna go in with Carousel, even though that's, I think, a tiny bit shimmery. I'm just gonna go in with that on my crease a little bit. Yeah, because the whole idea is to make this warm and autumnal. All right, Tom Ford. Then, okay, so he is sick. She takes his temperature and it's low. I'm sure that at this point she would know what his normal temperature is. My normal temperature is low 97, like 97.4. And so if I have like if I have 98.6, that's a fever on me. And I think we can probably assume that Will's normal is 98.6. So his temperature is low, and she wants to draw him a warm bath just to try to bring his temperature back up again. Then we are back at school, middle school, and the kids are going through the dumpster. Luke, Mike, and Max are, not Dustin. And they're looking for Dart. Dustin still hasn't come clean about the fact that Dart's at home. At this point, he's at home in Yertle's enclosure. He still doesn't say anything about it. And then there is a roach fleeing the dumpster. And as the roach is leaving the dumpster, scuttling away from the dumpster to protect himself from everything that's happening in the dumpster with the people, the kids, moving around in the dumpster, we hear Mr. Clark. There's a voiceover from Mr. Clark, and he is talking about survival instincts. And he says, when we encounter danger, our hearts start pounding. And his voice is a voiceover over Will standing in front of the bathtub, the warm bathtub. When we encounter danger, our hearts start pounding, our palms start to sweat. These are the signs of the physical and emotional state that we call fear. So all of these things that we as a species have been, survival skills that we have been honing for millennia, that cause us to either fight or flight in the face of danger. And then we are back, because we are seeing the voiceover with Will trying to get in, or trying not to get into the bathtub, just standing in front of the bathtub. And Will is refusing to get into the bathtub, and Joyce is trying to call Hopper, and he comes in to tell her that the tub is too hot. She offers to cool it down a little bit, but Will says, and kind of freaks out at her, no, he likes it cold. Which is just, then he walks and turns away. Woo! Then Hopper shows up. Then we are back at Hopper's with 11, and she's in her bedroom, kind of hiding away and sulking and brooding like an adolescent. And before he heads out, there's a moment where it feels like in his speech, in David Harbour's speech, that he's going to concede, like he feels bad or something. But I think he really feels like it's important to teach her lessons, because it could make the difference between life and death for her at some point. So I'm going to go in with the Ordinary Coverage Foundation in 20N. I think it's a little bit dark for me, but I am really enjoying the coverage and the longevity and what it feels like, and the price. It's really reasonable. I think I might get a lighter color and mix them together. So then he says that she should clean the house before he gets back, and maybe he'll fix the TV if she does that. And when he gets in the truck, he sees that he hears from Flo that there are all of these missed calls from Joyce. So he's heading over there. Then we are back in school. Oh my God, Billy. And there's a shower scene with Billy and Steve, and he's kind of being taunted because Nancy is away from school with Jonathan, and he didn't know it. It's a very interesting kind of homoerotic scene. I don't think it's going to be going anywhere, and I'm not a boy, obviously, but sometimes those boys' locker room scenes are a little much. But it's another interesting scene too, because we are again, Steve is not the jerk that he was last year. All right, and then we are in Forest Hills Park with Jonathan and Nancy. And it is, I think it's far-fetched because, I mean, for a lot of reasons I think it's far-fetched, but I'm just going to accept it. I think that the whole point of this was to get the people from Hawkins to take them in so that they could record something, right? Because that was the whole, when she got the inspiration was in the last episode when she saw the kid who was listening to that tape recorder, not the Walkman with headphones, but to the tape recorder. So I think the whole point was to get into Hawkins and have them talk. But I don't know what would have happened if Barb's mom would have shown up. So they're in the park and they're looking around, and then they finally start to feel uneasy and they go, and turns out that yes, all the people from Hawkins are there and they give them a ride to Hawkins. Yeah, again, I'm not sure what was supposed to be happening with that, because it wasn't code to Mrs. Holland to not show up. I don't know what would have happened if she had. Then we are back at the Hopper house, back at the buyer's house. What was I thinking there? Apparently David Harbour, who plays Hopper, relationships Joyce and Hopper. I think he calls him Jopper. Interesting that I called it the Hopper house when it's the buyer's house. And he comes in the house and he's, you know, it's freezing and he's gonna shut the door, but Joyce tells him to leave it open. She then goes into Will's room with Hopper, and then she shows him the drawings of the shadow monster. Will tells them that the beast likes it to be cold, which we saw before when he, said he likes it cold. And how does he know that? He doesn't know how he knows it, he just does. There are just these things, these like memories that he's getting. And he doesn't talk to the monster, he just knows these things. He doesn't have to think anymore. Those are just memories that are there, I guess. I just know things now, things that I never did before. And he struggles to try to explain. He says it's like they're growing and spreading and killing. And as he's describing them, Joyce looks at the wall and there's a D&D drawing that has Will depicted as Will the Wise. And Joyce says, smartly, what if you didn't have to talk about this? What if you could just draw it? And he just goes to town. Drawing. And it's a lot. Then we're back at school. Mike calls an emergency meeting, but does not include Max. And he feels like something bad has happened because he's having these more and more of these uncontrollable visits from the other side. And Dustin is trying to instill some D&D logic, and Mike says this is real life. And they decide that after school they're going to go to Will's house to check on him. And then first part of the plan is to check on Will, and the second part of the plan is to find Dart, because Mike thinks they're connected, and Dustin is like, why? Why do you have to find Dart? But, oh, we'll find out more about that in a second. I'm just gonna cover this up a little bit. My curling lash curler always takes away a little bit. All right, I'm gonna go in with my Nars pencil in Mysterious Red. I'll zoom you through this, and I'll see you on the other side of this. Right, for finishing powder, I'm going to use my Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Finish Powder. And for setting spray, I'm going to use the Too Faced Hangover RX 3-in-1 because my skin is feeling a little drier just because of it being colder and drier. So I'm hearing that this is good at setting, but also good at keeping things well hydrated, trying to avoid using the M word. All right, then 11 leaves her room, starts looking through things, and is in the basement, in the crawl space, and she sees all these boxes. She sees one labeled Dad, one labeled Vietnam, and one labeled Hawkins Lab, and she takes that one out. Ooh. Then we get to Hawkins Lab where we see Nancy and Jonathan because they've been taken, and she's yelling at the camera. And finally Dr. Owens arrives and takes them on a tour of the facility, and presumably she's recording him. We don't hear the entire tape, but she's probably recording him at this point. I'm not sure how she's recording him. I'm not sure how long she's been recording. It does make an audible click when you click one of those recorders, but we'll just believe that it's happening because it did. And Owen says mistakes have been made, and she says, mistakes? You killed Barbara. And he explains that the people who are responsible for what happened to Will and what happened to Barbara have been removed from the lab. And he talks about the fact that they can't seem to erase the mistake, but they're trying to stop it from spreading. And then they start talking, and I'm thinking about this. I certainly lived through the Cold War, and I lived through believing that maybe there was going to be a nuclear war. So the fact that this is happening in 1984 feels very real to me. It might not feel real to people who were born kind of after then, or were not kids during that time. But basically what Owens is saying is, if this got into the hands of the Soviets, if they knew that we were doing this, they would be threatened. Or if they could get a hold of this technology and use it against us, that would also be terrible. And it actually seems to kind of make the kids pause a little bit, which is interesting. Then we are back at the Byers household, and Will is drawing, and they're starting to they're seeing them as scribbles, but then they start to see, kind of like with a puzzle, pieces that kind of match up with each other, and they put it all together, and they see this really twisty thing, and they're wondering if it's a road or if it's roots, but Hopper says that it's vines, like the pumpkin vines. Then we see Lucas and Max, and she wants to be included and he wants to include her, but is afraid to tell her the truth because they've been threatened so much about telling the truth, and the truth sounds ridiculous. And if she really knew the truth, it would make her less safe. And Billy is watching them argue, and when she gets into the car, he says, we're family now, whether I like it or not, and he warns her that Lucas is dangerous and to stay away from him. And I don't know what that's about. I think that probably is that he is just being painted as this racist kid, which is terrible, but I think that's what it is. We'll kind of keep an eye on that moving forward. Then Hopper is out digging in the pumpkin patch. 11 is going through the box, the one that's labeled Hawkins Lab. She finds a picture of her mother as a young woman and an image of her next to Dr. Brenner, next to Papa. And instead of using the TV, she goes into Hopper's radio, gets into the static on the radio, because it was never really about the TV, it's just about the static. And she walks up to a woman in a rocking chair in that kind of dark space, muttering numbers and words like sunflower and things under her breath. And the woman sees 11 and calls her Jane. And then 11 reaches out to hold her hand, just like she's done before with Mike. But the woman like disintegrates and disappears before she's actually able to touch her. Nancy and Jonathan are then brought back to their car, which is now miraculously working again. And they're leaving. She hits play on her tape recorder, revealing that she recorded a portion of what Dr. Owen said. And Jonathan is wondering what she wants to do, if she still wants to move forward with the plan. And she says, let's burn that lab to the ground. She is really, 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 really angry. Then, oh God, Dustin. Dustin goes home, and Dart has grown and he's fed. And this bigger, older Dart opens up its mouth, and it's that kind of Venus flytrap kind of thing from the previous season. And Amuse is no longer. And oh, and then Mike has gone to the Byers' house, and Joyce is telling him to go away, he's not feeling well, blah, blah, blah. But when Mike says, is it about the shadow monster? Joyce lets him in. And then finally, we're back at the pumpkin patch, and Hopper is still digging, and he finally finds part of the vines that he kind of pulls away, and he crawls into this kind of tunnel, this upside down tunnel, and he recognizes it, that he's there because of all the little particle things. And he kind of looks around and says, oh Jesus. And then the episode is over. So it's really exciting. I'm really enjoying watching it and digging into it and taking notes and being more detailed about it and sharing this with you. So thank you so much for watching. There is a lot to do in the world and a lot to do on YouTube. I really appreciate the time that you took to spend with me today watching this. Take care, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye.